Hello and thank you for tuning in to this spotter video. If you are unfamiliar with the sport of disc golf, it is essentially the same as traditional golf. Competitors try and get their discs into the basket in as few strokes as possible. Let's catch up with touring pro Paul Ulibarri on his tips for being the best spotter you can be.
Thank you guys for joining us for this tutorial on how to spot properly. Without you guys, without the volunteers, tournaments wouldn't run as smoothly as they would with you guys, so we really appreciate that. We're going to go over a few ground rules to get started. The number one rule for spotting is it's always the group's decision, okay? The spotter is there to help and to give the best advice as he possibly can from his sight, from what he's seen that's happened and what's played through the hole. But at the end of the day, it's the group's decision and they can always overrule the spotter. The number two most important rule for a spotter is never touch a competitor's disc. There could be situations where they might throw it in the water and you can see it just kind of floating away and you know you can grab it. That's a situation where you just let it go. There will be other situations to where if it's out of bounds and you just kind of pick it up and then put it in bounds, the competitor could argue that he was in bounds because the group didn't see you touch it or situations like that. So a best case scenario is just let the disc remain where it lies. So a very important thing to keep in mind is you're going to have friends and buddies probably coming through and playing the hole. Make sure you give 100% the same calls with every single person in the tournament. That means if your buddy that you play with comes in and he throws it out of bounds and you think to yourself, hey, maybe I should give this guy a better call than the next guy, absolutely not. That's out of the question. Make sure that you're giving 100% honest feedback for everybody. Another thing that you're going to run into as a spotter is very, very close calls. And when this happens, people seem to get a little bit heated in the moment. Remember to remain calm and to understand that you are just there to give your best perspective to the group. These are professionals who take their job very, very seriously. So in the moment, their emotions might be a little more heated than you would, say, off the course or something like that. Another thing is that as spotters, you guys will be standing out here for a very, very long time. Now, a lot of times in, let's say, not so shady situations, so make sure to hydrate. Don't be afraid to ask maybe a tournament director or another volunteer to get you water, snacks, anything like that. Remember, you're a volunteer, and so priority goes to you guys as well.
To be a great spotter, you need to understand the basics of disc golf. In disc golf, there are out of bounds and inbound areas. To understand the specifics for the hole that you will be spotting, please feel free to ask the tournament staff for a copy of the caddy book. On this particular hole, players will be teeing from across a lake. The lake and the concrete area are both out of bounds, and the player must throw across them to reach an inbounds area that is marked by a painted line. If the player successfully crosses the out of bounds and lands inbounds on the left side of the painted line, feel free to give a green flag. This player's disc has come to rest in bounds and no further action is necessary. If the disc is close to the line and you cannot tell whether it crossed it or not, you can give your honest feedback to the player and the group. However, feel free to not make a call as the call is too close to the line for you to tell. The group will have to decide whether or not they're going to give it to the player. If the disc comes inbounds and then somehow finds its way back to the out of bounds, you would then give the players a red flag and use an orange flag to denote where it has gone back out of bounds. The player can then proceed to that mark and throw their next shot. If you can clearly see that the disc has not crossed inbounds, feel free to give the players a red flag. If there is any question as to whether it has crossed or not, you can tell them your honest perspective and what happened. However, it is always a group decision, and they will have to discuss it amongst themselves. Please remember to stay calm. If any emotions get heated, you're simply there to give your perspective. Let's take a look at a situation that could happen on the golf course. This competitor does not seem to be pleased with the spotter's mark because it looked like it had crossed inbounds from the tee's perspective.
Come on, man. Like, there's a little wiggle here. You sure?
Yep. Sorry.
Are you serious?
Yep.
I mean, like, really, like a hyzer could come in like this, and you sure it just didn't like touch something?
No.
Come on!
I would give it to you if it would. The honest story is that your disc was probably 15 feet farther out. It just slid up from here. So it never even came
Why
close
do they even
to the
make you a
white line.
spotter?
I know.
If you can't
I'm
see
sorry.
it.
If you ever have an instance where a competitor is being too aggressive, feel free to gather their name and give it to the tournament director at the end of the round. There should never be an excuse to mistreat a spotter. And remember, you can always defuse the situation by putting it on the group as the final authority. Let's check out how that would sound.
I'm just giving you my perspective. Please feel free to talk to your group and make the call.
Once again, thank you guys for watching this tutorial. If you have any questions before you go out there and spot, please make sure to contact tournament staff for any type of advice or questions before you go out there and do it. And as always, thank you for your time and thank you for volunteering.